Bienvenue à tous les fans. Welcome to the League of Learning for 518. Now, guys, we're going to talk about what's changed compared to the previous competitive patches. We're going to start with the big three top laners. Fiora is weaker base stat-wise. You might have seen her in the Chinese regionals. Now she won't just outstat you, so lane bullies like Riven and Renekton should be able to handle her pretty well, but she still does all the tricky Fiora things. Her damage is still very high. Move on to the next top laner, Darius, also nerfed for the laning phase, the biggest change being the mana cost to his Q. He will actually run out of mana, so if you can sustain from him or dodge enough Qs, he will and you can try to beat him that way, but he's a big lane bully. We'll see him some at Worlds, but I would say probably not too terribly much. Also sustain down a little bit in lane, up a little bit potentially in team fights. So overall change there. Now, next up is Gangplank, top laner, or maybe a mid laner as well. But since you saw him in competitive, he's lost a lot of barrel damage and a lot of barrel armor pen. Also, one of the bigger changes since you last saw him in competitive, though this was already on live for you guys, is tossing out a third barrel really quickly has a longer cooldown because you can't just chain them out quite as quickly. So that's another important change to think about for him. Next up, Lee Sin in the jungle. Recent set of buffs for him. Not only did he get 5 attack damage on Warrior, but also his ulti will do a lot more damage if he kicks a tank into other people. Also, his energy return is a bit better for him. There's a lot of Lee Sin mains in here. I think we expect to see Lee Sin very commonly picked, especially to snowball top lane. That's our big prediction for him in this tournament. Next up into the mid lane is Azir. He lost some movement speed. That's a really big one. Now you actually have to be a pretty good Azir to get away from ganks and to get away from team fights. Also, he lost the multi-hit damage on his Q. So much more of it is his auto attack uptime in team fights. He's more of a DPS mage, much less bursty, and again, easier to catch. So down a few pegs, still likely to be a viable champion. Now let's move on to the bottom lane. Mordekaiser's the new big thing. Now we haven't seen him at all in competitive play, so he's a big question mark here. But compared to what you guys are seeing in solo queue back in 5.16 and 5.17, a lot lower sustain early on. He can actually be harassed out of lane most likely. And the real big question is how players are going to play him. Even among the pro AD carries playing him in solo queue, some max W, some max Q. What items should they build? Those are all big questions. And seeing how the teams play around Mordekaiser in the bot lane is going to be a big question for us here at Worlds. And either way, it's going to be very fun.